Hey guys, this is Mrs. Yeagle, and I'm here to read to you chapter 11 of The Darkest Hour. This starts on page 131. Madame Rocher takes us to an old stone farmhouse that sits west of the city. Behind us, all of Cherbourg has gone dark. The entire city is under a mandatory blackout, meant to shield the port from Allied bombers sneaking over from England. I searched through the feathery clouds for any sign of our planes, but the sky is clear tonight, thankfully. If we're caught in the bombers' crossfire, there's no amount of Hail Marys that will save us from their payloads. We arrive at the safe house unannounced, but once the elderly farmer sees Madame Rocher, he whisks us inside and serves us each a ladle of fish stew. Apparently, this isn't the first time he's taken in fugitives, and he fortunately doesn't ask many questions. Once our stomachs are filled, Madame Rocher kindly asks him to give us a pouch stuffed with supplies: food, water, a map, even a weapon, a boning knife. Then we wait. Agonizing as it might be, we don't have another choice. In the summer months, the sun doesn't set until late here, and we'll need to surround ourselves with darkness to hide from the Germans' quick eyes. Once that dark sets in, we thank the farmer and sneak back into the night, where we part ways with Madame Rocher. She's off to her sister's apartment, but before she leaves, I give her two pecks. "We can't ever thank you enough for what you've done," I start. She gives my hand a firm pat. "Vive la France," she says, and hurries onto the road without looking back. I can't blame her for distancing herself from us. She's risked her own life to save our necks, and now she won't be able to return home. At least not until the war is over. Using the starlight to guide our feet, I hurry us westward over the gently rolling hills that crisscross with neat rows of shrubbery to mark one farmer's land from the next. As we thread through one line of bushes, Dorner comes up beside me. "I'm not sure it's wise to be traveling after curfew," he whispers, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Do you want to get to England or not?" He stumbles on an overgrown root. "We're going now?" I steady him and nod. There wasn't time to explain to him earlier that the SOE had already made arrangements to retrieve him tonight. "Precisely how will I get across the channel?" "By submarine. The British are on their way as we speak." "Then you believe what I've told you about Zierfall?" He sounds pleased by this, but I'm not here to stroke his ego. "Remember your end of the bargain, Dorner. Tell them everything you know about Zierfall, and they won't kill you. Get me to the Brits and the coordinates, and that name is yours." He matches pace with me step for step. "You can call me Alex, you know." "I know," I say, and I don't look back. We swing south to skirt past the Quakerville airfield, where the Nazis swarm like hornets defending their nest, and we continue on to the grassy fields that run parallel to the Atlantic. The smell of the ocean hangs right under my nose, briny and sharp, and the sea winds have chilled the air around us. Once we've passed the airfield, I open up the map and trace a lone finger along the path that we'll take from here to the drop-off point, drawing an invisible line from where we're standing over to the slim peninsula that juts off from the main palm of Normandy like a crooked finger. We'll need to reach the very tip of that finger in a matter of hours. "Looks like there's another 15 miles to go," I say to Sabine. Sabine gives the map a hard look. "More like 16. A few days ago, I would have rolled my eyes at her, but we don't even have time for that. 15 or 16 miles, it won't be easy terrain. There'll be rocky hills and thick brush that snatches at our ankles, and from a glance at the darkening sky, there's a summer storm brewing that should slow us further. We better move fast if we want to make it on time." I say that for Sabine's benefit as much as Dorner's. I'm surprised that she hasn't insisted on leading the charge to the coast, but she seems content to let me do it. Whatever happened during her arrest has truly rattled her, and I'm tempted to ask if she'd like to rest, but she settles that for me. "I can keep up," she says stiffly, and focuses her attention on Dorner. "He's the one we should worry about." "There's no need for that. It's my neck on the line," Dorner says. "And ours," Sabine points out before she shoulders the canvas pouch that carries our belongings, which also includes Dorner's folder and our remaining weapons. We have the knife that the farmer gave us, along with a pistol pen that Sabine has managed to save from headquarters. That's all that stands between the Nazis and the three of us. We forge ahead a few more miles, then Sabine lifts up her fist, her signal for us to get down. I yank Dorner to the ground and squint over the hills to see a light bobbing along the beach. It's probably a patrol who's naive enough to be using a flashlight, and even though he's moving in the opposite direction from us, I know better than to start breathing easy. There could be a group of his friends waiting for us ahead. Dorner turns to me. "Shouldn't we keep moving? It looks like there's a storm coming in." Heavy clouds lurk over the sea, blocking out the stars as the storm moves toward dry land. An idea strikes me. No, let's stay here until the rain comes, I say, and both he and Sabine frown. The rain will give us cover, and we'll need as much as we can since it's too dark to see the patrols. Our first priority should be getting to the drop-off point, Sabine points out. It's nearly 0100 hours, and our rendezvous is less than 3 hours. That's not much time. I know, but we won't have to wait long before those clouds come in. We'll stay put for 20 minutes tops. 15, she counters. Fine, 15. Catch your breath and rest a little. I'll keep watch. While Dorner sips some water and Sabine finds a dry patch of grass to sit on, I perch myself near the top of the hill. 10 minutes tick by. I scan the fields to search for another flashlight, but the countryside is quiet and dark. And once I've relaxed a little, beautiful too. These soft hills, this hum of the ocean. I'm starting to understand why Papa only spoke of France when he was drunk, and why Mama spoke so little of it at all. Did it hurt them too much to talk about it? I wonder how they're doing. Mostly I worry about my mother. She must be lighting candles at St. Raphael's every day for Theo and me. I can see her so clearly, the frayed shawl over her shoulders, the desperate prayer she murmurs over and over again. Guilt settles into my stomach at leaving her without saying goodbye. I'd left her a note saying I was going to California because I didn't have the nerve to tell her that I'd be going off to war like Theo had done. I knew that would crack her right in half. Say a Hail Mary for me, I wish I could tell her, even though all of our prayers did nothing for my brother in the end. And yet, out here in these Nazi-infested hills, I figure one of my mother's prayers is better than nothing. Where are you? I jolt up. Where are you, Jean-Luc? It's Sabine. Both she and Dorner have drifted off, but she's the one talking in her sleep and asking the whereabouts of someone named Jean-Luc again. Whoever he is and whatever he means to Sabine, he could be the reason why we're discovered. I crawl on all fours toward her and give her a good shake. Shh! You're talking in your sleep again, I whisper. From the sound of her whimpering, her dream wasn't a pleasant one. She props herself under her elbow. Was I? You were saying someone's name. Jean-Luc? She goes very still. I see. It can't happen again. If the Germans heard you talking about your boyfriend, her eyes flash dark. Jean-Luc isn't my boyfriend. Well, whoever he is, he's my brother. Oh. I didn't even know that she had a brother a couple of days ago, but this is the second time that she's mentioned him now. Does she have nightmares about Jean-Luc like the ones I have about Theo? You sounded worried about him in your dream. Her shoulders tense like a cornered cat, ready to hiss at me. But when Sabine speaks, her voice is as small as a newborn kitten's. I haven't heard from him in weeks, she admits. Then she turns her face away. He joined the Maquis last Christmas. I'm impressed. I don't know Jean-Luc, but I already respect him. A few months back, the Nazis began drafting able-bodied French, mostly men but a few women, to send to Germany for manual labor. Thousands have ignored their orders, though, and have turned to a guerrilla fighting instead. They call themselves the Maquis. I'm sure you'll hear from him soon. There must be another backup at the Postal Service. Yes, perhaps. I can tell that my words have done little to comfort Sabine, and I remember exactly how she feels. After Theo went off to war, I'd run to our letterbox every afternoon to see if I'd gotten something from him. When I didn't hear from him in a few weeks, I imagined the worst. Maybe a grenade had taken him, maybe machine gun fire. Then the nausea would hit me and I wouldn't be able to eat the rest of the day. If Jean-Luc is half as tough as you are, I tell her, then I'm sure that he's all right. She doesn't thank me or turn around, but I think I see a flutter of a smile before she digs out a canteen and takes a long sip. She offers me some, but I shake my head. Sabine doesn't put the canteen away, though, choosing to run her finger along the side of the container. I have a question for you, she says suddenly. Why do you keep that glass bottle in your room? My own shoulders tighten. She's talking about the bottle in my nightstand. I didn't think Sabine would have remembered that, but nothing really gets by her now, does it? Do you not have glass bottles in America? She asks. Of course we do. Sabine gives me a quizzical look and my shoulders inch up farther, but I wonder what's the use of holding on to this secret. Theo's gone, and who knows if the three of us will survive the night. It's something my brother and I did, I say finally. When we were kids, we would write letters to our relatives in St. Malo and put them inside of glass bottles. Then we'd toss them into the harbor. Whoever could throw the farthest would win. Win what? Nothing. Just pride you threw the farthest that day. Not surprisingly, since Theo was 4 years older than me, he usually won. Why wouldn't you mail the letters? I shrug. Because we didn't have the money for postage? Because we'd never even met our relatives? It was a silly thing that kids do. Didn't you and Jean-Luc ever do something like that? Sometimes, yes. She looks back out into the ocean, and I wonder if she's remembering something from her past. Whatever she's thinking about, she doesn't share it with me. So you have family in Saint Malo? Not anymore. My mother hasn't stepped foot in that city since she left for the U.S. with my father. I'm sure they arrived in Baltimore all shiny with hope, and for a while they truly lived the American dream. They opened up their own cafe, Les Délices, where they pushed out dozens of ham omelets and croque-monsieur every day. There were plans to open up a second location, maybe even a third down the road, but that was before the Depression. The bank notices came quickly after that, forcing them to find work at Pascal's for Mr. Richard's next-to-nothing wages. Not long after that, Papa started hitting the bottle. How about your family? Are they still in Normandy? My father is. A sour note creeps into her voice. He lives on my family's land and cares for my grandfather. A brother, father, and now a grandfather? Sabine has an entire family somewhere in France, although I do notice she doesn't mention her mother. Jean-Luc and I are supposed to inherit the farm one day, she adds. An image plants in my head of Sabine holding a pitchfork and wearing boots and an apron. You? A farmer? Don't laugh! That land has been in my family for over a century. I can't quite see you planting turnips. We grow apples. She shoots me a glare before her eyes go soft. My mother taught me how to prune the trees when I was little, before she returned to Algeria. My mouth feels dry. I'm sorry. Don't be. I don't blame her for leaving Papa. Sabine's family history seems to grow grimmer and grimmer, and in some ways it reminds me of my own. We have fathers we hate and brothers we love, and I wouldn't blame my mama either if she ever decided to leave Papa. I wish I'd known all of this when I first came to Paris. I wish she'd told me. Sabine brushes her fingers over the thick grass underneath us. When the war's over, Jean-Luc and I might try to find her. You should go, I say. Before it's too late, I want to add. I can't help but think about Theo's letters and how he talked about us visiting St. Malo and seeing where our mother had grown up. I hope that Sabine and Jean-Luc's plans will end better than ours did. I hope she won't have to live with the regret that I do now. I should have written Theo back sooner. I should have told him all that, of course, that I'd forgiven him. I didn't know that we'd have such little time left.